What's up, YouTube? So, I made a video a couple days ago talking about why I support the protesters from January 6th. And I said on Facebook that I was going to post a longer version to help explain. Now, the reason why I don't think we should call what happened on January 6th an insurrection is because of the simple fact. If you look at everybody who's been arrested and charged with anything related to it, none of them have been charged with insurrection. None of them. Nobody. Almost, well, not all, but majority, like a huge majority of them, are just trespassing charges. You have you had a handful that is assault a police officer. You have several that is destruction of property. But that's about it. There's not one charge of insurrection. So why does the media keep saying it was an insurrection if the people who were at the Capitol, if none of them have received an insurrection charge? Explain that to me. Another reason why I support what the peaceful protesters did was because it happened where I believe a protest should happen. A protest, if you want something to change in your government, where would you go? Would you protest where the politicians are at? Or would you protest on Main Street of your town? I mean, nowhere near the city or town hall. Be nowhere near it. Which one do you think a politician's gonna listen to more? You protesting 4 miles away from them? Or you protesting at their doorstep? Now, I said protesting, not throwing insults, fucking standing outside, threatening their lives. Not that. But just protesting, getting the person in charge to come out to see what's going on and to talk to you. To me, getting a politician outside of the building to come talk to you is a lot more useful than going and burning down a local business. Now, one thing I like to compare the January 6th protest to is the George Floyd riots. Yes, if you Google George Floyd riots or George Floyd protests, you get the same thing. You get the same links, same everything. So, either or, you can call them either protest or riot, doesn't make a difference. But I call it the George Floyd protests, I call them riots. Why? Because as far as we know, actually, you know what? I'm going to compare both of them right quick with under several categories. First off, property damage. January 6th. Total damage done equaled up to $1,459,652.55. I could be mixing up a couple of numbers, but it's solid 1.4 million. Almost 1.5. That's in one day. That's from one protest. That's from one entire event. The George Floyd riots ingest insurance claims alone. It is said that the insurance companies are going to have to pay out $3 billion. Billion with a B. Yeah. So, which one do you think I'm going to call more destructive? I'm going to call the George Floyd protests more destructive. Let's look at the loss of life. January 6th. Who all died that day? No, those cops did not die that day. They died. One cop died the next day from a heart attack. It was even said by the other police officers that he showed up to work the next day and he had a heart attack. The other police officers committed suicide from stress. Because these are DC police. Their area is stressful enough. So but they all died later on in the week. The only deaths we had on January 6th was one person, that was Ashley Babbitt, and she was shot by a DC officer. Well, not a DC police officer. He was a security guard at the Capitol building who also happened to have a history of leaving the firearm in different bathrooms. I believe he's on record for leaving his firearm in a public bathroom where tourists can get hold of it. Well, could have gotten hold of it. And I said tourists, not terrorists. I'm talking about people who are just there to visit the Capitol building, look at the history and everything else. Those people could have gotten hold of the security guard's firearm. The dude's been reprimanded multiple times. So, you really shouldn't be holding him up on a pedestal. Now, let's look at the riots, the George Floyd riots. We are looking at, in the summer, about 32 to 35 deaths total from people who were beaten to death, shot, stabbed, burned. I mean, if you're going to call a protest or riot out, I'm more likely to call out the George Floyd protest more than the January 6th. Because Ashley Babbitt, the only person who died that day, was a Trump supporter. Hey, I can hear some of y'all saying, well, guns were brought to the Capitol building. If you actually look into it, almost all the weapons that were brought to the Capitol building were left outside with security. Please try again. Then you got the media saying Trump instigated the whole thing. He did not instigate it. When the initial protesters got to the Capitol building, Trump was in the middle of a speech about 1.5 miles down the road. Nobody from the rally started marching until he said to. Until not Trump, until people like Alex Jones. Why did I get them confused? Joe Rogan's was a MMA announcer, and Alex Jones is so far a pretty damn good prophet. Because a lot of the stuff that Jones had been saying for decades, everybody's been downplaying and calling him a crackpot. And in recent years, a lot of the shit he's been saying for the past couple decades have been coming true. Yeah. So, but people like Alex Jones was telling everybody, okay, we're going to start marching to the Capitol peacefully. Trump, in his speech, said we're going to march to the Capitol peacefully. So, stop trying to say Trump instigated it. No, people are already pissed because they were asking for Congress to look into the votes of the election. You know, like what the Democrats did for 2.5 fucking years. As in Robert Mueller. His investigation. He spent 2.5 years, and at the end of it, when he was telling everybody what he found, he himself said that this was the smoothest investigation he has ever done. If he said that, then that means Trump did not throw a wrench into anything that Mueller did. So, if that's the case, and like I said, that investigation took 2.5 years, and not one charge of election fraud was brought up. So, my opinion, the Democrats had 2 years of pretty much uninterrupted investigation into the 2016 election on a lie. Wait, what are you talking about? Yes, the Steele dossier has been confirmed to have been fabricated. Everything in it was a lie. Please stop, people. Look into it, educate yourself, and you'll find out that the Steele dossier that was the linchpin, the main freaking piece of evidence that granted Mueller the ability to do the investigation, come to find out it was a complete and utter fabrication. The whole thing was a lie. So, if the Democrats were able to do a investigation on 2016's election on a lie, then Republicans should be allowed to do an investigation on a election that had a lot of shenanigans happening. What do I mean by shenanigans? I mean freaking observers being told that they cannot be within 10 feet of any of the ballot counters. Hell, there are several places, several states that had the observers 15 to 20 feet away. And these people had to use binoculars just to see the ballots that were being counted. So, not to mention, you had videos of people walking in and out of the ballot areas, of the ballot collection areas, with friggin' red wagons of boxes. Hell, there's a video of a freaking camera guy walking into one of the places that were counting the ballots, and he had his equipment in a red wagon, pretty much. Well, his equipment was in an ice chest that he put into a red wagon. This guy's supposed to be a professional cameraman. How many professional cameramen do you see going into a area to set up equipment 5 hours before the place is even open for the media, and they have their equipment in the worst possible stuff to transport it. Then you also have other cities where they put up pizza boxes, cardboard, blocking the windows, and only letting certain observers into the room at a time. I mean, hell, you also have evidence, and this has been confirmed. Steven Crowder did a video about this. They took, I think, 5,000 publicly available ballots, took the names and the addresses, went to the addresses to verify, and make sure the person was there. Out of like 5,000, I think they found like 800 of the ballots were falsified. Like 800 ballots went to addresses that did not exist, or they went to addresses that were not residential. They were commercial. What's the difference? One has to do with the place you live. The other is businesses. And not businesses that are allowed to collect ballots. Not to mention, you're not allowed to put a business address down on your ballot. Steven Crowder found like hundreds like that out of just 5,000. So yeah, there's plenty of fucking evidence to choose from, to go off of. I mean, there's so much shenanigans that happened in the 2016 election. If you're ignoring it, you're an idiot. You're just like, oh, I see nothing wrong. Oh, I know there was shenanigans happening, but I don't care. Because my person won. Your person won on a possible fucking lie. Your person could have been elected by majority of false, of fake ballots, of fake votes. Hell, Cyber Ninjas, when they did the fucking audit, they said, and they presented fucking evidence of at least 52,000 ballots that were falsified. Like, what the shit? And that's what the January 6th protesters were talking about. That's what they were heated about. They saw so many shenanigans happening that they wanted a investigation into an election. That's it. And people being in the media, Biden, Democrats, fucking establishment, Republicans, they're labeling these people as terrorists. Like, what the hell? It's fucking retarded. It's fucking stupid. And like I said, that's why I support the protesters from January 6th. Because I feel like they were trying to get politicians to actually stop what they were doing, and they could have said nobody was president. They could easily have said Trump's not president, but neither is Biden. For the next year, we will not have a president until we are done with an investigation. They could have done that, but they didn't. And they said Biden was president on a possible lie. See, and here's the other thing. People are going to say, well, how do you know it's a lie? There's no evidence. Well, why don't we have an investigation to see if I'm lying? Why don't we investigate it? We can't investigate if there's no evidence. I already gave you a bunch of evidence. I gave you freaking examples that should be followed up, that should be investigated. Hell, what Cyber Ninjas found out with that 52,000 votes? Shit. They could have flipped, if they voided those 52,000 votes, they could have flipped the Arizona audit and given it to Trump. Because that investigation was only in one county. Who knows what they could have found in the entire state? And that's why I keep saying, let there be an investigation into the 2020 election. Because if you want to say Biden won, he's the most popular president ever, let there be an investigation. Prove it. But you don't want to. Because you're scared to find out Biden is not as popular as you think. And that's what those protesters were wanting. They wanted their voices heard. Well, that's all, YouTube. Peace out.